A scorching afternoon. A ruthless biker gang descends on a young girl's lemonade stand, shattering her dream. They thought she was an easy target, but they had no idea an off-duty action legend was watching their every move. The heat was a physical presence in the sun-drenched Los Angeles suburb. It shimmered in waves above the immaculate asphalt and baked the scent of cut grass and chlorine out of the manicured lawns. For Jason Statham, age 55, it was just another training variable. Dressed in understated, high-performance athletic gear that fit his formidable frame like a second skin, he maintained a punishing pace, his bald head glistening with a thin sheen of sweat. This wasn't a jog, it was a moving meditation, a daily sharpening of the tool that was his body. His sharp eyes, the color of a winter sky, missed nothing, the twitch of a curtain in a window, the model of a car gliding silently past. He was a predator even at rest, his senses perpetually on high alert. As he rounded a corner shaded by towering palm trees, a splash of vibrant yellow against the green backdrop broke his rhythm. It was a small, neatly assembled lemonade stand. A hand-painted sign, crafted with surprising care, read, "Maya's Gourmet Lemonade, $2." Beside it, propped against a leg of the table, was a slightly dog-eared copy of Business for Kids. Behind the counter stood the proprietor, a young black girl who couldn't have been more than 11. Her name, he presumed, was Maya. She wore a simple white t-shirt and her hair was pulled back in intricate braids. But it was her posture that caught his attention, straight, composed, with a quiet intensity in her eyes that seemed far beyond her years. She wasn't just waiting for customers, she was conducting business. Statham slowed to a walk, his interest piqued. He approached the stand, his footsteps silent on the pavement. Maya straightened up, her professional demeanor clicking into place. "Good afternoon, sir. Would you care for a glass of gourmet lemonade? It's made with real lemons and a secret family recipe," she said, her voice clear and steady. Statham leaned against the stand, a ghost of a smirk playing on his lips. His voice was a low, gravelly rumble with its unmistakable British accent. "Gourmet, eh? That's a bold claim for a beverage sold on a street corner." Maya didn't flinch. She crossed her arms, mirroring a confidence he recognized. "It's only a bold claim if you can't back it up. $2, and you can taste for yourself." He let out a short, appreciative chuckle. "All right, you've got a deal." She worked with a focused efficiency that he admired, placing ice cubes into a clean cup with a small pair of tongs before pouring the pale yellow liquid from a glass pitcher. She handed it to him. The cup was cool and beaded with condensation. He took a long sip. It was surprisingly good, tart, sweet, and intensely refreshing. "Okay," he conceded, setting the cup down. "You can back it up." He reached into the small, zippered pocket of his running shorts. "So, what's the big business plan?" "Saving up for a new bike." Her expression softened slightly, a flicker of vulnerability showing through the professional facade. "I'm saving for my college fund," she said quietly. "My mom, she works 2 jobs. I don't want her to have to worry about me. If I start now, I can build a real nest egg. I read that compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe." Statham froze, his hand still in his pocket. He looked from her determined face to the business book and back again. He'd met corporate executives with less drive, soldiers with less resolve. He saw a reflection of his own past, the grit required to claw your way up from nothing. He zipped open his small athletic pouch, a bag most would use for keys and a phone. But Statham was different. He pulled out a thick, tight roll of cash. Without a word, he deliberately counted out 100 crisp, $100 bills. He stacked them neatly and placed the thick brick of money on the counter. $10,000. Maya's eyes widened, her jaw slackening. The confident businesswoman vanished, replaced by a stunned 11-year-old. What is that?" "An investment," Statham said, his voice firm but not unkind. "In Maya's Gourmet Lemonade, LLC. You've got the hustle, the plan, the quality product. You just need the seed capital. I can't take that, she stammered, shaking her head as tears welled in her eyes. It's too much. Don't think of it as a gift, he said, leaning in slightly. Think of it as a partnership. I expect a return on my investment. Not in money. In you. You keep working this hard, you keep this fire, and you make something of yourself. That's the return. Deal? She stared at the money, then up at his unyielding face. After a long moment, she wiped a tear from her cheek with the back of her hand and gave a single, shaky nod. Deal. Statham gave her a curt nod of approval, finished his lemonade in one gulp, and resumed his run without a backward glance. The transaction was complete. He trusted his instincts about people, and his instincts told him Maya was a solid investment. For a few minutes, the suburban quiet returned. Maya stared at the stack of cash, her heart hammering against her ribs with a mixture of terror and elation. She carefully moved the money into a small cash box under the table, her hands trembling. It didn't feel real. Then, the piece was shattered. It started as a low, guttural rumble in the distance, a sound that vibrated through the soles of her feet. It grew rapidly, multiplying into a discordant roar that drowned out the hum of sprinklers and the chirping of birds. 6 motorcycles, angular and aggressive Street Fighter models, tore around the corner and screeched to a halt in front of her stand. They weren't the chrome-laden cruisers of weekend hobbyists, these were stripped-down, menacing machines, built for speed and intimidation. The riders were a matched set. Clad in faded, grease-stained leather and denim, their arms covered in a chaotic tapestry of tattoos. They dismounted, their heavy boots crunching on the pristine asphalt, and formed a loose, predatory semicircle around the small stand. The leader, a hulking man with a shaved head and a spiderweb tattoo covering his thick neck, swaggered forward. He smirked, revealing a row of stained teeth. He was the kind of man who enjoyed the fear he created. He called himself Spike. Well. What do we have here? He drawled, his voice dripping with condescending amusement. A little entrepreneur. Maya's blood ran cold, but she forced herself to stand tall. She remembered Statham's nod of approval. She was a businesswoman. Welcome. A cup of lemonade is $2. Another biker, a wiry man with a jagged scar bisecting his eyebrow, let out a harsh laugh. $2 for sugar water. You got a lot of nerve, kid. Spike leaned over the counter, his foul breath washing over her. Tell you what. We're thirsty. How about you give us a round on the house, to show some respect for your new neighbors? Maya's heart pounded, but her voice came out steady. That's not how a business works. You pay, then you drink. The bikers exchanged amused glances. The one with the scar reached over, grabbed the pitcher, and sloppily poured a cup. He took a theatrical sip, then twisted his face in disgust. Garbage. He turned the cup over and poured the contents onto the grass at her feet. Laughter erupted from the group. You still owe me $2, Maya said, her fists clenching at her sides. Spike's grin widened. His eyes, however, weren't smiling. They were scanning, assessing. And then they stopped, locking onto the corner of the metal cash box peeking out from under the tablecloth. His smirk turned sinister. Forget the $2, he said softly. Looks like you're having a pretty good day already. A really good day. He nodded to the wiry biker, who immediately stepped forward and ripped the tablecloth away, exposing the cash box. Whoa, the biker whistled. Look at that haul. What you been doing, kid, selling lemonade or selling secrets? That's mine. Maya cried, her voice cracking for the first time. She instinctively moved to shield the box with her body. I earned it. Spike stepped closer, looming over her. The stench of stale beer and gasoline was suffocating. Nobody earns that kind of cash selling lemonade. You must have lifted it. We're just gonna hold on to it for you. Make sure it gets back to its rightful owner." He reached for the box. "No." Maya shoved his hand away, a surge of adrenaline overriding her fear. She stood her ground, a tiny, defiant figure against a wall of leather and menace. "You can't have it." For a second, Spike looked genuinely surprised, then his face hardened into a mask of cold fury. "Bad choice, little girl," he snarled, grabbing her shoulder. "A very bad choice." Just as Spike's fingers tightened on Maya's shoulder, a voice sliced through the tension. It was low, calm, and carried an unmistakable edge of lethality. "I'd advise you to take your hand off her." The bikers froze. Spike's head snapped around. Standing at the edge of the lawn, where moments before there had been nothing but empty sidewalk, was Jason Statham. He hadn't run back, he had simply appeared. He stood perfectly still, his body relaxed but coiled, a panther observing a pack of hyenas. His expression was utterly blank, which was somehow more terrifying than any look of anger could be. The power dynamic on the manicured lawn shifted so abruptly it was almost audible. The biker's swagger evaporated, replaced by a tense, wary uncertainty. "Who the hell are you?" Spike growled, though he instinctively let go of Maya's shoulder. Statham took a slow, deliberate step forward. "I'm the guy who's telling you to get on your bikes and ride away." The wiry biker let out a nervous laugh. "There's 6 of us and 1 of you, old man." Statham's eyes flickered to the biker, a brief, dismissive glance. "Then it's not a fair fight," he said, his voice flat. "For you." Spike puffed out his chest, trying to reclaim his dominance. "That cash," he spat, pointing a thick finger at the box. "She stole it. We were just getting it back." "Is that so?" Statham's gaze shifted to Maya, who was looking at him with wide, hopeful eyes. Then he looked back at Spike. "Funny. I don't remember her stealing it when I gave it to her 5 minutes ago." The statement hung in the air, heavy and irrefutable. The bikers exchanged uneasy glances. The story was too specific, too insane to be a lie. Statham's calm, his sheer presence, was a testament to its truth. "You gave a kid 10 grand?" Spike scoffed, clinging to the last shreds of his bravado. "I made an investment," Statham corrected him coolly. "And you and your mates are threatening my asset. So, I'll say it one last time. Leave. Now." Spike's face flushed with rage and humiliation. He was being challenged in front of his crew. He couldn't back down. He made a decision. A terrible, life-altering decision. "Get him," he snarled. The word had barely left Spike's mouth when the scene exploded into a symphony of brutal efficiency. It wasn't a fight, it was a disassembly. The largest biker, a mountain of a man, lunged first, throwing a clumsy, telegraphed punch. Statham didn't retreat. He flowed forward, inside the arc of the punch, his movement a blur of economy. His right palm struck the man's jaw with a sharp crack, while his left hand grabbed the back of the man's head. Using the biker's own momentum, Statham slammed his face directly into the sturdy wooden top of the lemonade stand. The wood splintered with a sickening crunch, and the man collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut. One down. The wiry biker with the scar swung a metal folding chair, one Maya kept for herself, at Statham's head. Statham's hand shot up, catching the chair by its leg mid-swing. He ripped it from the man's grasp with a powerful twist and, in one fluid motion, drove the edge of the chair into the biker's kneecap. A high-pitched scream tore through the air as the man went down, clutching his shattered joint. 2 down. 2 more came at him from either side. Statham moved between them like a ghost. He sidestepped the man on his left, delivering a vicious elbow strike to his ribs that produced a wet, wheezing sound. As that man staggered back, Statham spun, ducking under a wild haymaker from the man on his right. He rose up, driving the crown of his head into the man's chin. The man's teeth clicked together loudly, and his eyes rolled back as he crumpled to the lawn. 3 and 4 down. The entire sequence took less than 5 seconds. The fifth biker, seeing his comrades dismantled, hesitated. It was all the time Statham needed. He closed the distance, grabbed the man by the front of his leather vest, and threw him bodily over the lemonade stand. The man landed in a heap amidst the scattered cups and pitcher, groaning in a daze. 5 down. Only Spike remained. His face was a mask of disbelief and fury. He pulled a grimy switchblade from his pocket, the blade snapping open with a metallic click. "I'm gonna gut you, you old bastard," he roared, lunging forward. Statham didn't even blink. As the knife arced toward him, his hand moved with blinding speed. He didn't block the weapon, he attacked the wrist. His fingers clamped down like a vice. There was a distinct snapping sound. Spike shrieked as the knife clattered to the pavement, his hand hanging at an unnatural angle. Statham wasn't finished. He spun Spike around, locked his arm around the man's thick neck in a rear-naked choke, and squeezed. There was no rage in his face, only cold, methodical pressure. Spike's face turned a deep shade of purple, his hands clawing uselessly at the unbreakable grip. Just before consciousness fled, Statham released him. Spike collapsed onto the pristine lawn, gasping and choking for air, utterly broken. Statham stood amidst the wreckage, not a single hair out of place, his breathing steady and calm. He hadn't fought them. He had simply corrected a problem. He looked at the groaning, defeated men scattered across the lawn, then his gaze settled on Maya, who was staring, awestruck, from behind the relative safety of her ruined stand. The silence that followed the brief, brutal chaos was profound. The only sounds were the pained groans of the bikers and the distant, oblivious hum of a leaf blower. One by one, the defeated men scrambled to their feet, clutching their bruised ribs and broken pride. They hauled their leader up and, without a single backward glance, limped to their motorcycles. Engines sputtered to life, and they tore away, a pack of wounded animals fleeing a superior predator. When they were gone, Statham's entire demeanor shifted. The lethal weapon receded, replaced by a quiet, focused calm. He walked over to Maya, his eyes scanning her for any sign of injury. "You all right?" he asked, his voice softer now. Maya could only nod, her throat too tight to speak. Statham surveyed the damage, the splintered wood, the overturned pitcher, the scattered cups. He let out a sigh, not of exertion, but of annoyance. Then, to Maya's astonishment, he knelt and began picking up the debris. You don't have to do that," she finally managed to say. "Yes, I do," he replied without looking up, his movements precise and efficient. "A job's not finished until the cleanup is done." He started straightening the bent leg of the stand, testing its stability. He worked with the quiet competence of a master craftsman, his powerful hand surprisingly gentle. Maya hesitated for a moment, then quickly joined him, gathering the plastic cups. They worked in a comfortable silence, restoring order to the small patch of chaos. "Those guys," Maya started, then stopped. "Are not your problem anymore," Statham finished for her, his back still to her. He found the lid to the cash box and clicked it shut, a sound of finality. He turned to face her, leaning against the now stable stand. "Where I grew up," he said, his voice low and reflective, "you learned quick. You learned that there are wolves and there are sheep. But you also learn there's a third choice. You can be a shepherd." He looked directly into her eyes. "What you have," he said, tapping his temple, "your drive, your brain, that's more powerful than any muscle. But it doesn't mean much if you can't protect it." Maya listened, absorbing every word. "That money," he continued, nodding toward the box, "is a tool. Nothing more. Your real strength is the courage you showed before I even got here. You stood your ground. You protected what was yours. That's what I invested in." He stood up straight. "So here's the rest of the deal. One day, you're going to be strong. You're going to be successful. And you're going to see someone else, someone small, someone scared, someone getting pushed around by wolves. And when you do, you're not going to walk away. You're going to step in. You're going to be the shepherd. Promise me. The weight of his words settled on her. It was more than a request, it was a passing of a torch. She looked at the wreckage around her, then at the unwavering gaze of the man who had saved her. Her fear was gone, replaced by a steely resolve that mirrored his own. I promise, she said, her voice filled with a conviction that surprised even herself. With the stand mostly reassembled, Statham gave a final, approving nod. Back in business. He looked down the street, his senses still on alert. I should go. But I have a feeling our friends might be slow learners. His intuition, honed by years in the shadows, told him this wasn't over. Instead of resuming his run, he gave Maya a quick nod and melted into the shade of a large oak tree at the corner of the block, disappearing from sight. Maya, trusting him implicitly, watched him go before turning her attention back to her stand. She was wiping down the counter when the dreaded rumble returned. Spike and his crew were back. They parked their bikes but kept the engines running this time, a low, threatening growl. They didn't dismount. Spike, his face swollen and purple, glared at her with pure hatred. His arm was in a makeshift sling. You think your boyfriend saved you? He snarled, his voice raspy. He's gone. And now you're gonna pay. Not just the money. Everything. Maya's heart leaped into her throat, but she held her ground, remembering Statham's words. You stood your ground. Before Spike could say another word, a shadow detached itself from the oak tree. Statham emerged from the shade, walking slowly, deliberately into the middle of the street. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He just came. The bikers froze, their collective bravado instantly turning to ice. Statham stopped about 20 feet from them. He didn't look at Maya. His cold, unwavering gaze was locked on Spike. He didn't speak for a long moment, letting the silence and the low thrum of their engines stretch into an unbearable tension. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, almost conversational, yet it carried across the street with chilling clarity. I see you're back, he said. I'm going to assume it's to apologize to the young lady. Spike's jaw worked, but no sound came out. No. Then this is the last time we'll have this conversation, Statham continued, taking another slow step forward. If I ever see you, your bikes, or even your shadows in this neighborhood again, these machines you love so much, they will become your tombstones. Am I clear? The threat was so absolute, so devoid of emotion, it was more terrifying than any scream. It was a statement of fact. From a window across the street, a neighbor, who had been watching the whole thing, had their phone out, recording. The shot was perfect, the line of menacing bikers, the small girl standing defiantly by her stand, and the lone, immovable figure in the street holding them all at bay. Spike stared at Statham, his face a cocktail of fury, pain, and primal fear. He saw his own demise in the man's cold eyes. He broke first. With a choked curse, he wrenched his handlebars, spun his bike around, and sped off. His crew, needing no further encouragement, followed suit, their roaring engines sounding like a retreat. The video hit the internet an hour later. By morning, it was viral. News outlets picked it up. #Lemonade Guardian was trending. Jason Statham became a folk hero, not for a role he played, but for an act of genuine courage. But back on the quiet street, Maya wasn't thinking about any of that. She stood behind her repaired stand, the setting sun casting a golden glow on everything. She thought about courage, about strength, and about a promise made. She was no longer just a girl selling lemonade. She was an investment. She was a future shepherd. And she was ready. True strength isn't just about how hard you can fight, but what you choose to protect. What would you have done? Share your thoughts below. And as always, please comment with respect. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.